All right, it's me here again. This video is going to be a little bit different. If you can call my videos structured, this one is going to be one of the least structured videos that I have. It's not, this is not a lion's share video. It's not a specific chapter video. It's more of a clue one, but it's not a normal clue one where I focus on a box and go into it. This is, just bear with me. This one's going to be a rambling one. I needed to get this out there. I needed to say this and get this. I needed to work through and talk through these thoughts that I'm having. So if this video is not your cup of tea, I apologize. We'll go back to something normal and more structured, for me at least, what I call structured, shortly. But this one's gonna be a little bit of a ride. I do think there is a few, and I'll try to do them in the beginning, so we get the good stuff out first, like I like to do. A few new things I picked up on. And then we're going to rehash some old stuff and see it in a different light. So without further ado, here we go. All right, so this video started as I was going to do a chapter, what are we on, 16, 17, for Washington. Yeah, we're on chapter 17. We're chapter 17, all right? So I went through the Washington chapter, and I found... Okay, first time through, I didn't find anything. Second time through, I didn't really see anything either. Third time through, I'm like forcing it, like trying to find something. It seemed kind of weak. And I saw some colors, maybe some symbolism in the tree. Some interesting word choices. As I was wrapping it up, I'm like, this is gonna be a short video. It'd be like under 10 minutes. It just seemed week, and I didn't want to put it out there, so I thought, you know what, let me just sleep on it. I'll reread it tomorrow. I'll reread the ones before and after and see if I can get something. And so I'm like back on the couch, and then I'm like watching Rick and Morty or something, and my mind's still going. I'm like, well, hold on, there was something that I thought of on the plane that I forgot to write down. And I'm like, and then the thought came back to me. And then I read the introduction again, because whenever I get kind of like stuck, I'll just reread the introduction. And I saw something I hadn't seen before. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't know if that's enough for a video. And then I read there's like two introductions. I read the introduction, and then whatever it's called right after the introduction, the how to read this book. And then I read and so then I'm like starting to get some ideas. So I'm like, all right, this is going to be a standalone video. So that's the reason for why this is not going to be a chapter 17. I'll do chapter 17 tomorrow, but this is going to be a kind of introduction, okay? And so starting off, the thought that led to this video was, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm trying to game it out in my head. All right, so somebody is going to find the box. They're going to find a box, and then when they open that box, they're going to have whatever's in there, right? I'm not going into that today. And then they're going to have a piece of paper, right? Or whatever medium he chooses to put the clue for the lion's share. Okay, so they're going to have an extra clue for the lion's share. And then someone else is going to find a box, probably a different person. And then they're also going to have a clue for the lion's share. So JCB as a creator, I got to sit down here, write this really complicated book, this lion's share, and then I gotta come up with an extra clue that'll help somebody, and then do 4 more. And I'm sitting there just thinking about that, thinking, man, how difficult would it be to not only create the book as it is, right? Whether it's a story that makes sense, right? I mean, and all the stories make sense. An overarching theme of a treasure book, a coffee table treasure book, divided into several parts, each of the chapter, and then there's clues in the chapter, but then there's also additional clues. And knowing that he said he's going to reveal the location of one, so I can't make each of the boxes how to solve the box. I can't use the same kind of stuff. I can't use the same ciphers. Even if I use different ciphers, I can't use ciphers at all for one, because then when I reveal that one, it's going to do something to the second one, and on and on and on. And then, so I started rereading the introduction again. Oh, so at first I read the table of contents, right? It's on page, do you remember the page number? So 9, 8, 7, 6. So it would be page 7 and 6, although it's not written. Matter of fact, there's no... Actually, I'm just now noticing this. The book starts with 9, so I don't know if that's significant. Yeah, the book starts with 9. So 9. All right, let's go this. So 9 down here, 8, 7, 7, 6. Right, 7, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, right? Which that seems interesting. I mean, it's not a book within arm's reach of me right now, but I've got other books here, and I mean, some of them, very few of them actually start with like page number 1 being this, right? I've seen where it's like Roman numeral I, like lowercase I is like the before or the after. But that's interesting to me that I just noticed that that the book starts with 9. Wonder if that's significant. Okay, write that down. Pencil that for later. Okay, so reading this book, one of the first things. This is the first time I've caught this, and I think it's because I'm going through the chapter so carefully now. Is at the bottom of page 9. The majority of these objects are rare. Some pieces are one of a kind. More than a few have historical significance. Picasso, Carnegie, Washington, Tiffany, Thoreau, and Onassis. All right. So first off, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll edit this out. I've got I was eating Chick-fil-A and got like something stuck in my throat, and there's not enough sparkling water here. All right, that's rough. Raw and uncut. No edits. Okay. Picasso, Carnegie, Washington, Tiffany, Thoreau, Onassis. Lock in. So, as an author, you're choosing to write these down in a list. You're choosing the order. All right? What order are we going in? Well, I would do alphabetical or the way they appear in the book, which this is none. I mean, it's not alphabetical, and this isn't the way they appear in the book. So, what order did you choose? There is no random. It's very hard to do random when you're writing a book like this. Like, your mind is always thinking of something. So when you're trying to be random, your mind is just reverting to the easiest thing. So is this the order that we're supposed to read the chapters in, right? Picasso, we're looking at 22. Carnegie, 18. Washington, 17. Tiffany. Tiffany is the 14. Thoreau is the fire. Where's the fire? Did I pass it? Oh, same thing. Tiffany and Thoreau, 14, and Onassis, 10. Which interestingly enough, the names Picasso, Carnegie, Washington, Tiffany, Thoreau, Onassis, they are like in the chapter. Like, that's why it was easy for me to find it. Like, I didn't have to, because some historical figures, right, are buried in the chapter and they're not actually on the title. Like, each one of those names is on a title, so it's easy. Why did he choose those? I mean, why not Amelia? I mean, why not? I mean, you could say maybe Art Smith. Maybe he's not as big into American history, but well, I mean, Picasso's not American, but would you say, I don't think he is. Hope I don't show my ignorance there. Would you say that, and Onassis, I mean, all right, he's using last names, but Jackie Onassis, I mean, Onassis, I don't know. I just feel like that's interesting. Something to write down, books for later. What's the significance of that order, right? I'm not going into it in this video because I don't have a solve or anything. That peeks out as something interesting that's the order he put it in. All right. Okay. So again, I'm reading the books, looking at the boxes, because I looked at the AT box and I saw those little, I don't know the best word to call them, nipples, I guess, the thing that stick up. I don't know if that's a proper term, but I'm looking at other boxes to see that. The one at the page 8, I guess. This page, I mean, it looks like a hinge. Some kind of hinge would swing. Or, I mean, looking very closely at the crack, the line right here. So I'm either seeing that the lid like goes in and there's like a thin metal sleeve that goes in, or if it's a hinge, or maybe like like the lock front face turns up. I don't know. So I'm going through, and this next part will be a little bit of rehashing some stuff. For example, because I was going through the Washington chapter and I'm not finding anything, and I'm thinking, okay, is there something in the book that's going to tell me it's okay not to find something in a chapter, right? And I'm of the opinion now that there are red herrings and there is subterfuge, misdirection, because of one, his reaction on the interview, two, the way the postscript talks about, hey, there's none of this going forward, right? If you watch enough of my videos, you know what I'm referring to. If not, just ask in the chat and I'll explain. So we're going down on page 10, okay? Here we go. To help you locate these boxes. Oh, wait. I saw something about increasing value of pieces. Okay, I lost it. Okay, so page 10. There's no one particular chapter solely devoted to helping you find this larger treasure. Instead, the clues and hints, again, we've talked about clues versus hints, will lead you to its hiding place and be found anywhere in this book, okay? Anywhere. That's a really big notification there, anywhere. For instance, there may be helpful information found here in the introduction. All right, so that's why we always like to reread the introduction. And almost every part in almost every chapter, again, that's the almost. That's what makes me feel comfortable about skipping over a chapter or saying, you know what, I haven't really found anything major in this chapter. Almost every chapter in part 1 of this book offers at least one important detail. Again, it's the at least one important detail to help guide you to the location of the largest box. All right, you're free to search or not for any here we go. Often people hit treasures, different side of moth of the flame. Joy, okay, and this is where we get into cozy mittens, warm. People talk about the mitten and Appalachian Trail box. I don't really see if there's much of a significance there yet. Okay, here's another one. Top of page 12. This is also something new that I haven't spoke on before because I haven't really noticed it that much. But here we go. Top of page 12. The conquest. So the arc of human history, right? And the arc, again, whenever we see arc, we want to go back to the Joy's Serenade because of arc. Someday I'll get little tabs. Use will straight edge as the turning square or any arc may align at a proper point. All right, so again, use will straight edge, which before we had said, Occam's razor, as the turning square or any arc may align at a proper point. And this is, I'm starting to read this differently. Again, Joyce Serenade, page 237. Before I would read that, see how far to go, and then I would say, use will straight edge as the turning square or any arc. So meaning as the turning square or any arc and putting those two together. Like you're either using a turning square or an arc. But now I'm reading the or as like a versus or like a consequence. So you can say or like, do you want chocolate or vanilla, right? I'm giving you two options to choose. You can have them both. You want chocolate or vanilla. But that was the original way of reading the or. Now I'm reading the or, do this or this will happen to you, right? So again, it's still two, I guess technically it's still two options, do this or something will happen to you, but they're not really two of the same options. It's more of two different options. If that makes any sense at all. Again, this video may be a little bit out there. So as I'm reading this now, you need to use will straight edge. You need to use it as the turning square. Or, like the consequence is, any arc may align at a proper point. And why that would be a bad thing is because if you're looking for a specific spot, a specific treasure, you don't want any arc to align at the proper point. You want the arc to align at the proper point. So again, little bit of a rabbit hole. I'm a little bit weird, but that's what I got. So that's how I'm interpreting that now. Top of page 12, the arc of human history. Okay, there's an arc. Let's pay attention. The arc of human history has been shaped by treasure hunts, both big and small. The conquest of Alexander the Great. All right, again, that's talked about. Alexander the Great, Alexander's Antiquities. Alexander the Great shaped culture in parts of Europe and Asia for over 1,000 years. The nomadic journeys of the disciples of Jesus Christ. Have we talked about Jesus Christ yet? I don't think we have. I mean, there's very, very opaque references to religion as faith and hope, but he's talking more about Buddhist and Sanskrit and that South American spooky temple with the mirrors and everything than he's talking about Jesus Christ, right? So that might be something. Evolved into the most popular religion in human history, influencing Western economic and political policy for over 2,000 years. The desert battle victories of Muhammad. Again, have we talked about Muhammad? I don't think we have. I mean, again, we mentioned Buddhists, mentioned, yeah, I don't think we've mentioned Muhammad. Led to a similar effect in the Muslim Middle East. Later, the Spanish conquest. We have talked about the Spanish conquest, right, in a couple chapters. Versus the emerald mines in the Americas, as well as the gold that they're trying to ship back. Later, the Spanish quest for riches created a great transformation in the Americas, and so it has continued. From the American Revolution, we've talked about the American Revolution, right, Washington, to the women's suffrage movement. Yeah, you could talk women's suffrage, Amelia Earhart, right, to the civil rights movement. We talked about that. History has continually been written and rewritten by humans striving intensely for things they cherish most. Right, so I just, today in class, I went over, it's a history class I teach, but I went over because it's their first paper they're turning in, so I didn't know what the baseline was for all the students with their English. So I'm like, look, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the who, what, when, where, whys in your content, as well as grammar and spelling, which you have electronic aids to help with grammar and spelling. But then I went over briefly. For this first project, I'm not really looking for word count, page count. It's just, give me the content. And I did cover, introduction, body, and thesis, right? Just it's not an English class, it's history. But as long as they get their point across written. So most time when you're looking for that, I would still call this an introduction. So you're going to talk about things. You're going to bring up topics that will be covered later in the book, which again, of the paragraph we just covered, unless I'm missing something, which I'm human and I don't have a box, so obviously I'm missing something. I don't see Jesus Christ, or if you want to be specific, the nomadic journeys of the disciples of Jesus. I don't see that in the book, and I don't really see the desert battle victories of Muhammad. I don't really see that either. So if someone did find that in the book, put it in the comments so we can talk about it and see it, or keep it to yourself and go after the gold. But that brings me to my next point, history, right? History, which I'm all about history these days. You are free to, so early on, I was against Googling a lot, and I'm still against Googling a lot. I guess we have to determine what a lot is, because he talks about stuff being hid in the histories of the items, right? Which is kind of new, because he says all you need is the book, right? All you need is the book, a pair of shoes, and some water. But then again, now he talks about, clues may be found in the histories of the items, all right? Which I wish I don't want to highlight it. I don't want to underline it. Maybe you'll find a layer of treasure I've hidden, part of this book, dead space. Anyways, maybe I'll cover it later. But again, that's my fault as a creator. Bad job, me. But it does say that in the introduction, so I'm sure one of you guys will have that right off the top of your head. But that does lead me to believe that, hey, maybe a little bit of light Googling, all right? Especially if it's a history that he brings up. That's why I've started including like the Rumpelstiltskin, including the Don Quixote, because he kind of leads you down that path, or at least I would say, like, here's the analogy I'm using. He's giving you a tour of his house, right? And he's walking by a room or a door, and he's pointing out something in that door, but he doesn't open it for you. He's just like, oh yeah, and there's the living room, and he walks right by it. But he's inviting you to question or to look into it later, if that analogy kind of works out. And so that's why I went down the Rumpelstiltskin's path, because he's kind of teasing you toward it. And the same thing with the with Don Quixote by mentioning, hey, they named California after the early explorers. They'd read this book, but it doesn't tell you what the book is. And that's what I think is the black part of the ring, right? I like the idea that it's space. We're gonna get to the moon rock soon, in a couple days. But whenever he mentions something in passing, and it's absent, I think that's a clue. So that's what made me, when I'm rereading this introduction, clue in on Jesus and Muhammad, which are kind of two ends of the coin, right? Especially if you go back far enough and you learn about Jacob and Esau and all that. So yeah, I think it's something there that he talks about, because this book has a lot of topics. Like, he covers a lot of an arc of human history. So I mean, you could have mentioned other topics. I mean, you mentioned, so Alexander the Great, Jesus, Muhammad, Spanish conquest, American Revolution, civil rights. So 6. 4 out of the 6, I mean, you have chapters basically dedicated to. I mean, you could have talked about the native plight, right? Which, that was another thing I found in the introduction, native, which we'll say that's right. He said he went native. From my kind of joys, I was going to joy. All right, I guess we're gonna skip over that then. Or I could just pause this video and find it real quick. All right, I cheated, so I did stop and look, because I didn't want to just... I've done it enough times where I bring up something and I don't have where it's at in the book, so I want to stop and do that. Anyways, enough apologizing. Page 11, here we go. My hunt for it has become native. So that's an interesting one, because I know before we talked about the native plight and the stuff that was done to the natives, and he kind of, for the arc of human history, I would say if you look at the arc of human history with a regard to, even if you don't include the Americas, I mean, how we treated the natives is a pretty big part, especially if you want to bring up the civil rights, but you don't want to bring up the natives. Like, yeah, what we did to, the African Americans that were brought here, yeah, that was bad. But if you look into, like, the way we early Americans treated the natives, I mean, that was also pretty terrible. And there was a lot less press back then keeping an eye on it. Anyways, I'm not going to get bogged down in that. But look at page 11, third paragraph. I have sought joy in many ways through humor, music, right? And the reason why I focus on this, because it's the topic of joy, right? Which joy is a big theme being threaded throughout here, right? So anytime you have something related to joy, we should focus on it. I have sought joy in many ways through humor, music, writing, parenting, and spirituality. My hunt for it has become native. So, I mean, yeah, grammatically, I mean, I understand the word use there. I'm used to seeing native in a different usage, like, all right, don't go native, all right, with the military being, I just read a biography on Lawrence of Arabia, someone who went native. So a lot of times it's seen as a bad thing. If you have a disciplined officer in charge of like a native group, and that officer goes native, you would say, he's kind of lost the discipline and bearing of his mother army, and he's kind of adopted the natives, in their garb, or hanging out with them. So anyways, most of the time it's used kind of in, I guess, disparaging, or not a positive light as far as ways I'm seeing it, going native. But there he says, my hunt for it has become native. So, and I understand, native meaning it's natural to him. He's saying the way I'm interpreting it is as his hunt for joy is now just something, a part of him that he does. It's who he is. It's native to him. That's how I'm saying that, all right? My desire for it now fuels my daily routine. All right, so I think I definitely pay attention to anything having to do with the natives. It's a little bit interesting that it's not really brought up for the next page, for the arc of human history. But speaking of history, I did also find, while I took our pause, so I guess I like to, like, I guess it's a prideful flex that, I don't do any cuts when I do these no cuts, or these one shots, one takes, or whatever. But sometimes you need to swallow your pride, because I wanted to know what I was talking about, or act like I know what I'm talking about. So page 13, we're looking down here, and it's 1, 2, 3, third paragraph from the bottom. And yes, some of the clues to finding the largest treasure box, the lion's share, are found within the histories of these treasure items themselves. All right, so we take that sentence. How do we interpret it? One more time, for those in the back. Some of the clues to finding the largest treasure box are found within the histories of these treasure items themselves. And that's, this histories is mentioned 3 different times, right? At the very top of this page, he talks about studying the histories surrounding each piece, like panning for gold. My researchers and I, with archival references in hand, waded out in the stream of time. Beautiful analogy there, going to a stream and panning for gold. How deep do we need to go? I would say 2, maybe 3 layers just for an extra. So I'm thinking of 2 layers because I'm going back to the rubies, right? When you mentioned rubies, how they put it under their skin. So a lot of references in the book that I've seen are under a layer. I haven't really seen anything that's calling out multiple layers. All right, so I would go maybe 2 layers just to be safe. But I don't know if I'm digging down 3 layers. Like the Don Quixote, that was like 3 layers deep. That's borderline out there. If the breed of the donkey that Don Quixote rode had a significance, that would probably be way too far. I mean, we're talking about a chapter in part 1 referencing a book that Don Quixote also references the same book, and then now we're looking at a donkey or a certain specific in Don Quixote. We only got to Don Quixote because of a call out in another book. So I don't know. I might have lost somebody there, but I don't think going that deep is going to be needed, right? But I could see, going 1 layer deep, and examples of 1 layer would be, Cassius Clay is brought up, right? So studying a little bit about Muhammad Ali and why he doesn't like to be called Cassius Clay, found it insulting, and maybe his role or some of the bouts that he fought. Maybe if a country that he fought in, a country that put the fighter up that he fought, or a score, maybe if that had a significance to solve a location, yeah, I'd probably count that. Because it's 1 or 2 layers deep and it's brought up. So that would give anyone who's looking into the histories of items, here's a little bit of confirmation bias for you, right? Again, because we know JCB had, pages and pages of archival history, right? Wading out into a stream. There's so much as a stream. So we know he consumed all that data and only put a very small amount in here. So I could see, him wanting to reward someone who went through what he went through. Okay, I think we're getting kind of long here, but there's a few other things I want to cover still in the introduction. Yeah, we're not making an introduction here. So we moved on from the introduction, and now we're in how to read this book. And one of the things I found here was that his advice, right? Read thoughtfully, indulge in it, which is a weird thing to say. He talks about, I've subtly placed many clues within the text of the book. So that's another call out to the details, right? As someone who mentions, let's look at the details of the words. Let's look at the word play, the word usage, when he uses a word instead of this one, the weird sayings, right? A B on a pistol, I still can't get away from that. All right, here's more confirmation from JCB himself saying that, yeah, I subtly put clues there. They're not always overtly obvious, which is weird. Overtly obvious together. You may or may not pick up on all of them right away. That's okay to be expected. I suggest jotting down anything that makes your spine sense tingle. Let your thoughts marinate on the book after you finish. On subsequent reads, it would most likely become easier to distinguish clues more clearly. So again, this book, this paragraph itself, all right, here we go. Overtly obvious, that's 1. Spidey sense, I don't know, 2. Clues more clearly. That's it's just the alliteration there. It's just a little bit jarring for me in that 1 chapter. Thoughtfully indulging it. Okay. Anyways, but why? Why would he say or expect rereading the book multiple times makes clues stick out? Why would that be the case? if you didn't get it the first time, what's going to make you get it the second time? What information would you come across in reading it the first time that will allow you to get it the second time or third or fourth time? And again, I think it may be the little details in the paragraphs. I think it's doing what we're doing, right? And what others are doing too. I'll fully admit, I'm not the YouTuber that does the craziest deep dives. I mean, if you want some deep dives, I mean, Dr. Krypton, I mean, he does some really insane deep dives. I think the management does some good ones. Chaz on his podcast does some good ones. What's the Treasure Insiders, the podcast with the two guys and a girl? They do some really deep ones. I'm not that deep yet. Maybe eventually. I wouldn't consider it deep, but for a first pass, I think it's pretty good. So what are we looking for in this first pass that's going to help us in the second pass? I think it's what we're doing. Looking at the colors, looking at what stands out, looking at the alliteration, the wordplay, and I think picking those all out will help us on a second pass go through. So I mean, this is a long haul, right? I mean, I'm hoping that's why I've shifted gears into doing these kind of videos versus just hammering on a part 2 book on a chapter of part 2, right? Just doing a deep dive into a place location. I still think it could be found, in one of the states that I mentioned before, but I think this is going to be more productive for me and hopefully for you guys. All right. So that's it. We're wrapping it up. Again, a really weird session tonight. Kind of all over the place. I think tomorrow will be more structured. So we'll see. Hopefully, some of the stuff we called out makes some sense. All right, later, guys.